Hello and welcome to the St. Louis Online. I'm Pete Smith, co-chairman of the 40th National Narrow Gage Convention Planning Committee. The video you are about to watch is part of a series of clinics and layout tours presented as a virtual but slimmed down version of our narrow gauge convention, which had to be canceled due to the coronavirus. We thank all of our presenters for their support and for allowing us to share their work with you. Our thanks also to Russ Segner, Robin Peel, and Burr Stewart for producing this series. For more information on this video and others, go to our website at 40nngc.com. We hope you enjoy the program that follows. Well, this is the most important part. We want to hear from the people that are going to be throwing the future meetings. And we're going to start with the one that's furthest out, which would be Denver. And so that will be presented by Chris. Will do that. Chris, are you there?
I am. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
We hear you great, Chris.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Chris, go ahead.
Well, let me just share my screen and I'll have a little presentation for y'all. All right. Well, that is our little presentation. We are 3 years out, and I hope that from that we're actually 3 years to Denver, but we're 3 years from Denver. So I thought I'd just take a minute with everybody and kind of go over some of the things that we saw in Denver in 2017. We had 1,964 attendees, 329 vendor tables, 86 separate vendors attended the 2017 convention, 108 separate clinics, 21 layouts on tour, 10 modular layouts and displays, and we had a dedicated spouses room and programs for the spouses. So what can you expect in 3 years when you come back to Denver? More. We will have more clinics. We'll have more layouts for you. We're going to enhance the spouses program with some additional programs and activities. Our vendor area is going to be a little bit larger. We're attracting a few more modular layouts and displays because we have a little more square footage, and we'll have more socializing space. And you know, that was the 6 foot, and the socializing was something I never thought would come into play, but clearly that's something that we have to think about going forward. And that's just around the hotel, guys. We want more? Well, we got it for you. We'll have special activities and discounts on all the railroads in the states. They have been very cooperative with us. We'll have convention activities at the Colorado Railroad Museum. We'll have convention activities at Como, Colorado. If you're not paying attention to what they're doing up there, it is amazing the amount of rolling stock that they've acquired. They have a steaming locomotive. They are laying track towards Boreas right now. And they said they would throw their facilities open for us at the convention. We'll also have, and I'm glad Stathi is here because he can talk about the 168, but that's just one of the many locomotives and cars you'll get to see. Obviously, RGS number 20 is steaming and looks beautiful. Who thought we'd have another K20 or 37, but we do, and it's burning oil and it's running every day down in Durango right now. We have the 168. And then, and I hope Stathi mentions this when he talks about it, but the historic train that they're restoring to go with the 168, including coaches 256, 292, the tourist sleeper 470, RPO 65, and they've started work on pay car F. We're going to have a lot of stuff for you folks in Denver, Colorado, because it's the mother, the father, and the crazy drunk uncle of all narrow gauge conventions. And we hope to see you there in 2023. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. That's great. Looking forward to being there. Our next speaker will be Seattle. And I guess, Robin, you're going to take that one, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you've got to listen to me. So given the chaos that's been going on in the last year, be assured that both Johnny Graybeal and Chris Lane and I, we've been talking a little bit about, you know, what's happening and so on, how we want to go forward and so on. So that's been a really good spirit of cooperation, which I think is a hallmark of the narrow gauge conventions. So yeah, we're excited to have you guys come to Seattle, Tacoma in 2022. I don't know if any of you guys know where Tacoma is. I'm sure you do, but it's the town with which we share the name of our airport, and it's a smaller town, a big port, about 30, 40 miles south of Seattle. So that's where we're going to actually host 2022. So I'm going to make this brief because you've heard me speak too much this week already, so this won't take too long. So let me just step through this very quickly. Who are we, when and where, and the dates? So let's have a quick look. We have 13 people who joined our team today. Many of them are on the call today, and I think we've tried to represent the team who's putting this together with the narrow gauge community across the Puget Sound. And we come in all scales, sizes, and locations around the narrow gauge community. So that's our team listed up there in alphabetical order. I put me at the top just because I happen to be the chair of the group putting this on. I actually put an asterisk against 3 people on there, and for good reason. They all appeared in the Gazette, which I received 2 days ago. So both Dale Kreutzer and Roger Knowlton helped write a story about Chuck Rickett's ON 30 narrow gauge layout. actually very near Tacoma, actually down in Olympia, Washington. And Greg Wright had a lovely story in this month's Gazette on his beautiful, I think, Consolidated Republican Mining Company layout, which is also down in Olympia, which, as I'm sure you guys know, is the capital of the state of Washington. So that's why I put an asterisk against all of those people there. And I think some of the other people you will know, Russ, you know, Burr Stewart is a great friend, big HO layout not far from my home, and he has been putting our videos out on YouTube from this convention this year, so that's a great help. And I think you know Dave Woodrell and Dale Kreutzer, SM3 modelers, and combined with Bill Busaka, the three of them actually have the complete model of the Rio Grande Southern from the top end to the bottom end. And so I'll go on. I'm not going to mention everybody, I apologize, but we have a nice group of people here actually helping us out this year. So that's who we are. And it's been a little bit difficult because we met last year a couple of times, and then we got the venue and so on organized right towards the end of the year, and we haven't really been able to meet in person this year for very, very obvious reasons. So hopefully early next year we'll be able to get back together and get all the details finalized. But on the other hand, you know, we've proven this year we can work online, so that's great too. So where are we actually going to hold this? I mentioned last year in Sacramento, we're going to hold this in downtown Tacoma, which is 25 miles south of the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. It is very central for layout tours around the Puget Sound area. We have traffic. Denver has traffic. Sacramento had traffic. It's just something we have to live with. St. Louis has traffic. But Tacoma is quite central. We have quite a few layouts in the Olympia area, some in the Tacoma area, and some out on the peninsula where Dale Kreutzer and Bill Busaka are, for example. So we think Tacoma will be a little bit different for various reasons. The Hotel Murano down there is a really, really nice modern hotel with an on-site convention center. That convention center attached to the hotel used to be the old Tacoma Convention Center owned by the city, which is now being, there's a new one just next door, which is way too big for our needs. But everything will be under one roof. It's a really nice hotel. I describe it as being like a W hotel, if anyone stayed there, but with color. You know, the Ws tend to be very modern, sleek, but monochromatic. This one's very bright and colorful, a really nice hotel. Got for the Puget Sound area, a room rate that's, I think we've agreed to $139 a night. It's very, very close to the freeways, I-5 and the interstates across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. And in downtown Tacoma, we have lots of interesting attractions, including the Chihuly Museum, the LeMay Car Museum, which is a wonderful place. You can actually spot it from Interstate 5 as you drive past Tacoma, very close to there. And the Washington History Museum, which has inside of it a wonderful model railroad that some of our colleagues help run and operate and maintain there. So those are all, I think the LeMay Museum may need a streetcar ride, the rest within short walking distance of the hotel. By the way, downtown Tacoma has a free streetcar system to get around, and there's lots of restaurants and things down there, which hopefully will be reopened by 2022. So that's where we're actually holding the event. What to expect? We do believe we have a plethora of world-class narrow gauge layouts up here in the Puget Sound. We have a lot of great SM3 layouts, something we share in common with St. Louis, but lots of other narrow gauge modelers up here of all scales and gauges. So we know those layouts well. We've used them for previous conventions. Hopefully we'll have some new ones for this year too, for 2022 too. So looking forward to that. We will have all the usual clinics, contests, modular layouts, and vendors, all within the hotel. And some pictures here of the hotel. There is this lovely atrium on the bottom right here, as you can see. That will be both our reception area, and we will have space for modular layouts there in the atrium. And there's an upper level, kind of mezzanine level there, which could also put modular layouts on. And right behind those doors, which you can see in the bottom here, is the entrance to the exhibition center. And this whole place can be locked at night, so the vendors and everybody in the contest room, if it's within there, which it may not be, but we're figuring that out, everything will be nice and secure. We'll be setting up some prototype tours. That's something we haven't quite got finalized yet because we haven't been able to get together this year to actually do that. And there has been some change in ownerships of some of the prototypes we might go and see up here in the last few years. That is certainly something that we're going to be working on probably towards the end of this year, and we'll certainly come back in Hickory next year and tell you exactly what they are. And of course, we're renowned for our beautiful sunny weather here in Seattle, year-round actually, year-round. The sun is guaranteed, I can tell you, with maybe that one caveat on the right there. So thank you. Finally, the dates, we are confirmed Thursday, September 1st to Sunday, September the 4th, 2022. September the 5th will be Labor Day. So it's the same weekend that we're in right now. This is one day later than the usual schedule. We're going to do Thursday through Sunday. Usually narrow gauge conventions, the on-site ones have done Wednesday through Saturday. One reason for doing this is the Monday is a holiday, therefore potentially a good travel day for people to get back to work and family and so on. And secondly, we get much better rates at the venue, both for the space and for the accommodation, by using more of the weekend. This is a business city, it's a business hotel, a nice hotel with a convention center, but leveraging it over weekends when usually there's not much use of that space, it's much better for all of us to actually do that. So that's what we're going for that year. So that's what we're actually going to do. We hope to see you in Seattle in 2022. And we will give you much more detail when we see you in Hickory next year. And if indeed there are any other events during the year, such as the SM3 Symposium in Albuquerque, I believe next May, we'll have a lot more details by then to actually show you. Anyway, thank you. And I want to thank my team that we've got here. We've got a great team, very supportive. You know, hopefully we're going to convene very shortly and fill in those details for you. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you up here in the bright, sunny, actually the sun has come out, in the bright, sunny Pacific Northwest in 2022.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. Look forward to that. Well, our next guest will be Johnny Graybill, who will talk to us about Hickory next year, 2021. Johnny, take it away.
Okay, thank you, sir. First of all, Pete, I want to thank you for a wonderful National Narrow Gauge Convention. St. Louis was wonderful. I got a couple of the layout tours, and Curtis and I had a wonderful convention. I don't know what this virtual thing is because we were there.
Yes, you were. Well, two-man convention.
Inside, I stayed at Pete Smith's house last night and got home to Western North Carolina. Curtis Brookshire was driving and he set a Saturn land speed record getting back.
I guess.
We picked up some equipment from the wonderful people in St. Louis to be able to use in Hickory, and we appreciate that. Now, I'm going to quickly apologize for one thing. I anticipated doing this at a rest area on a cell phone hotspot connection. So I'm not quite as, have everything as spiffy as Chris has, because I expected the bandwidth to be pretty low. But if, Robin, if you will walk me through sharing the screen, I've got the video ready to go. But I've got
at the bottom of your screen, Johnny, you should see a little green button that says Share Screen.
Okay.
At the bottom of the Zoom screen.
Click the box I want to share.
Actually, not quite so quick. Before you do that, there's two other buttons there which are Optimize Video, Optimize for Video, or something like that. At the bottom of that.
Optimize screen sharing.
Exactly, and there's a one next to it which is Use Computer Audio if you have that. Yeah.
I have that.
And then then just double click on the one you want to share, which is probably the video app, not your desktop is better. There we go, we're seeing it. Lovely.
Okay, here we go, folks.
Just me, just so bad because we're looking at it on the TV.
What?
It's just so bad because we're looking at it on the TV.
Oh, Res or somebody. Wow.
Part of the routine is through frame.
That's the video. I've got a confession to make here, folks. North Carolina is one of those spots that's still dealing with COVID. As much as I would would like to say differently. For example, the convention hotel has been shut down for months. They are renting the ballroom out as a socially distanced call center for a financial institution. So they're making money without selling a room. All the details are worked out. I'm just having to deal with everything in slow motion. The tourist railroads are on pause. The reason I showed you guys all these tourist railroads, I've got a deal with Tweetsie. We're going to have a private afternoon at Tweetsie that is free for paid attendees, like we did in 2011. We'll have a private afternoon on Thursday of the convention. Probably for the first 600 people that sign up for it, it will be free. We may be able to pack in a few more than that. Working on a trip with a special private behind the scenes situation with Dollywood, which has 2 White Pass locomotives for you White Pass fans. And we're just working with everyone to not just say we'll be open, but to have something special for the Narrow Gauge Convention. We have, I believe it's either 29 or 30 layouts that are already on the tour. The biggest complaint 10 years ago, they were so far away. Only about 3 are going to be in that it's a long way territory, but they are going to be worth going to. Kevin Cuso's Silverton area layout's fantastic. One that wasn't on the video because I've not gotten there to share it yet. If people know of Lou Sassy, who takes pictures for Model Railroader, he is going to have his fully completed ON30 layout open for us. That's a fabulous layout. I've just not gotten down to take pictures of it. In 2011, we did a bus tour through Tweetsie Country that included a ride up the Doe River Gorge. We're going to do that again, except this time it should be behind the steam engine. They've got a steam engine that should be operational by next year. Lots of things for the people who like to smell coal smoke. We all model in different scales and even a couple of different gauges. But you know, coal smoke fits every scale and every gauge. Everybody sort of enjoys that. The convention center, those who came in 2011, we're using most of the convention center. We are going to take advantage of the fact that the convention hotel, about maybe 2/10 of a mile away, has larger clinic rooms to where we can fit up to 150 people in a clinic room. For some of these popular clinics, the model contest is going to be in the hotel. So there will be a shuttle going back and forth on a 5-minute headway. So if the wife gets the car and you can't drive back and forth, it's free parking at both ends. We will have a shuttle going back and forth every few minutes. Like I showed there, the convention hotel price is $119. That includes breakfast buffet. It's one nice thing about the South. Everybody sort of enjoys themselves there. Breakfast is always good in the South. We have room for over 300 vendor tables and for plenty of the modular railroads that will be there. So we had 1,600 people in 2021, and I am aiming to beat that. I want to have a nice large convention. So anyone that is east of Pete is certainly welcome to make the drive. And I can tell you, you can get to Hickory from Pete's in about 9 hours and 15 minutes if you drive a Saturn and fly low. Does anybody have any questions? It is the Crown Plazas. I see that question. It's the Crown Plaza. They have the largest or the best and most well-stocked bar in the area around the convention center. There is a hotel right in front of the convention center, but you're not going to get libation there.
Johnny, what is the date of the convention?
September 1 through 4.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Registration will should open Tuesday morning because we'll do the trip through Tweetsie Country on Tuesday morning. only those that are going on the special trips we're trying to work out. We're trying to work out enough details to have a Greyhound bus trip over to Dollywood. The website, which is 41nngc.com, the website is not live yet. I'm going to admit that until we have a few details worked out, I wanted it to go live this weekend, but it's going to be October 1st. And I will commit to all the vendors here right now that none of the tables will be sold before October 1st. There will be no sneaking behind, sending me an email and saying, I want this table, I want that table. It will start October 1st, although what date of the week is October 1st? That should be fine with it being a Thursday. The website will go, there's a holding page there. The video you just saw will be there here in a day or so. Like I said, I intended to handle all this at an exit on the interstate, but we made it home. Any other questions?
Can you put the hotel information on your website so that we can make room reservations?
We will probably do that in the next couple of weeks. Hotels, everyone who books with a narrow gauge convention knows that a hotel doesn't want to start taking reservations before 50 or 51 weeks out, just so someone doesn't book a room for next year and next week they get charged for it because they didn't show up. I've talked to the hotel manager. He is getting a block put in place, and as soon as he confirms with me that he's got the block put in place, that information will go up on the website.
What about airport shuttle? I assume you still have to fly into Charlotte.
Charlotte is almost exactly an hour away. One of the things that you can look into, do a Google search for the Hickory Hop. They do run a shuttle service from Hickory down to the airport, and I'm sure they will come pick people up and take them to the airport. People do that all the time. Nobody likes to drive to Charlotte and pay big dollars to leave their car there for a period of time. There's good car rental in Charlotte. Charlotte is an international airport, so it's very friendly to fly into from all over the country. Robin can get there almost on a direct flight.
Can get there on a non-stop flight.
Yes.
And that is the nearest airport, is that correct?
Greensboro is just about the same distance, but it's a regional airport. So depending upon where you're flying out of, you could check when you're doing your tickets, try Greensboro, but Greensboro is a little over an hour away and Charlotte's about an hour away. So Charlotte, for most people flying in, Charlotte's going to be the best bet. And yes, American has a hub in Charlotte. Yes. And so does Delta. Yeah, a lot of things go out. Everything goes out of Charlotte. And for anybody that might be overseas, flights do come in from England and Europe every day. And for anybody that lives in Los Angeles, I've personally flown nonstop to Charlotte, and it's usually a good price to go out of LAX.
The other thing, flying back, Dale and I flew back from Charlotte, and we had quite a wait. So we took advantage of the NASCAR museum there, which can easily consume a day. But we had like 3 or 4 hours to wait. It worked fine.
For people like us that like car racing, the NASCAR museum is there just north of Charlotte. Hickory has a local speedway that a lot of the NASCAR legends cut their teeth on, and they still race there. Hickory has, that time of year, has their own minor league baseball team. And the mountains have golf courses every 10 miles or so. So if you like to golf, there's plenty of golfing opportunity here in North Carolina. And one thing that I want to mention for the ladies, 9 years ago, we did a Greyhound bus trip to the Biltmore House. That is the George Vanderbilt home. That was the largest private residence in the country. They got a nice tour of the house, a buffet lunch, and about an hour and a half at the winery. Those ladies came back singing. So if you want your wives to go and have a good time, make sure that you tell her that there's going to be a nice trip up to the Biltmore House. And we're going to do some other things too. We know that your wives put up with you doing this for a year and they want something out of this trip. We'll have things for them to do. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, Johnny, could you please repeat the entire thing in Midwestern English?
I'll let Chris do that. He was taking notes.
Any kind of English would be helpful.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, let me go ahead and translate for
Sorry.
Johnny. His convention is going to be great, and he would enjoin you gentlemen to come to Hickory, North Carolina. The food is good. He has drinks, Alan, which I know is important to you, and they got choo-choos with coal smoke. So let's all go.
I'm in.
Is that good, Johnny? Is that about right?
Yeah, you hit it. That I enjoin you to come translates to me to y'all come.
I appreciate all three presentations, but for me, just give me the dates and I'll be there.
September 1 through 4. When the date rolls, you want to roll in.
For convenience sake, Seattle will be the same dates on a different year.
Denver
Johnny,
is
how far is the Johnson City Museum?
Taking the I-40 and I-26 up and over the Blue Ridge, you can get there in 2 hours and 5 minutes. If you take the tour through Tweetsie Country, they're going to take you to the Doe River Gorge, give you a train ride, and then take you to that museum to see those layouts, and then come back over the mountain to get you back to Hickory. So, and that is a fabulous layout. It's featured in a certain publication every year. Am I allowed to say it for trademark purposes, Chris?
Yes, you may. I give you express permission to promote my products.
They have a nice article in the HON3 annual every year. They're doing a fabulous job recreating that railroad. When old people come in and say that's exactly how it used to look, the modelers are happy, the historians are happy. It's a fabulous railroad to go see. Anybody else have a question?
Yes, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
This is Dale in Kentucky. So I only speak Kentuckian. Will I be able to get a translator for North Carolinian?
We might be able to work that out because, Daniel Boone made Kentucky famous, and Boone, North Carolina is an hour from the convention center. So we might be able to hook you up with someone who speaks Boonian.
Okay. We also have bourbon here, though. Okay.
Well, the bar can help you with the bourbon. I can't.
Well, we'll do that. Thank you.
Any other questions, folks? Robin,
Looking forward to it, Johnny.
how many attendees how many people do we have online here?
Right now we have 122. We've had up to about 150 today.
Well, I only chased 22 away. Wonderful.
Yep, good.
Yep. Thank you, Johnny. I think we need to move on.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you all in Hickory. Now, the next thing we need to attend to is taking bids for the year 24 and 25. We are running 2 years behind because no bids accepted and no bids were made for 25 in Sacramento. We have one bid that I know of for Pittsburgh, and that was for 24. And Gary Kohler, I think, is representing Pittsburgh for us today. And Gary, are you out there?
Hey, Pete, this is Jim Weinshanker. I'll be doing
I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah, Gary's the chairman, so I'll be doing the presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Jim Weinshanker. I'm from Washington, Pennsylvania, and I'm working in conjunction with Gary Kohler from Ohio and a friend of ours who's also on the executive committee, Dennis Vaccaro, who lives south of the Pittsburgh area. And We'd like to take the opportunity to bid on the 44th National Narrow Gauge Convention in 2024 and bring it to the east, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hasn't been out east for a while. As you know, West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania had a plethora of narrow gauge activity throughout the early years. So let's start off with the convention center. We will be just a few minutes west of Pittsburgh itself. We have talked to the DoubleTree in Green Tree, Pennsylvania. It is the largest hotel with convention space within Pittsburgh, other than the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, but there is no hotel associated with that. So there's approximately 41,000 square feet available for our usage. They have a grand ballroom, which is 13,200 square feet. They also have a junior ballroom, and there is a plethora of meeting rooms. The key here is 460 guest rooms available to us. There is a full service on-site restaurant. They do have a lounge, also have a breakfast center and a small bistro marketplace store. So as with previous conventions, we are keeping this under one roof, which is nice. Directly across from the hotel is the Wheeling and Lake Erie Rook Yard, as a fun fact there. And how are you going to get to the convention center? As you know, we in Pittsburgh, we have the Pittsburgh International Airport. It is 20 minutes down the Parkway West to the convention center, and they do have a free 24-hour shuttle service. So moving into our featured activities, first and foremost, I did talk to Brad Esposito, the general manager of the East Broad Top, about a month ago, and they are fully on board with participating in the 2024 convention. They are looking forward to it. You know, operational steam locomotives, refurbished cars, extensive right-of-way that will be open. In my neck of the woods, down in Waynesburg, we have the Waynesburg and Washington #4 Alco Cook 3-foot locomotive and the Jackson and Sharp #6 coach. It's an 1892 model. The only piece rolling stock left from the Waynesburg and Washington Railroad. Since we are 4.5 years out, we anticipate some operational in some way, whether full restoration or we'll be operating the locomotive on air and a fully restored coach. To our northwest, we have the Jones and Lachlan Porter 2-foot locomotive, which is up here in the upper right-hand corner. That's the #58 that Rick Rowlands has been working on at the Youngstown Steel Museum. If anybody's been following his Facebook page, ton of work being done there. Directly to our west is the Age of Steam Roundhouse in Sugar Creek. As you know, they have 22 plus locomotives undercover and acquiring more. To the south of Pittsburgh, we have the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. They have 4+ miles of operating right-of-way, 50 plus cars, plus they are underway of building a multi-million-dollar brand new visitor center. Directly north of Pittsburgh, we have the 2-foot Bucks Cahuta and Western. We also have a private 2-foot Shea. And down in Waynesburg, we have a 1952 Plymouth 3-foot operating diesel locomotive. So all of these entities are on board for our featured activities. So let's just take a quick look at each one. East Broad Top, everybody knows about the East Broad Top. Talking with Brad Esposito, they will accommodate us in any way. We are going to offer motor coach tours out there. You'll get on the bus in Pittsburgh. We'll go out the Pennsylvania Turnpike, spend the day, have lunch at the EBT, excursion trains, photography activities, so on and so forth, shop tours. But they are ready to participate. As I noted, what we have down in Waynesburg is the 1916 Alco Cook steam locomotive. Fun fact about this locomotive, it does have an Eames vacuum brake. We do have the 1892 Jackson and Sharp coach and the Plymouth that is operational. I will be heading up a motor coach tour of the right-of-way from Washington to Waynesburg. We'll end up at the museum where the locomotive and the coach is. So we'll be offering that service. Rick Rollins is working on the J&L Porter 58. It is under steam. He's about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of us. 24-inch gauge, 040, and it was built by the H.K. Porter Company. He does have a string of excursion cars. He has a few thousand feet of track and building more. And again, we will be offering a motor coach trip to Youngstown Steel. Age of Steam Roundhouse, I'm sure everybody has heard about this. This is the locomotive collection from Jerry Joe Jacobson of the Ohio Central fame. Motor coach trip again, be getting on in Pittsburgh, head out to Sugar Creek, do the back shop tours, look at the locomotives, and basically spend the day at the Age of Steam Roundhouse. Down back in my neck of the woods in Washington, Pennsylvania, we have the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. Fantastic collection of trolleys and streetcars if you're into that type of activities. They do operate on 4+ miles of track. And down here, looking at the renderings, is their brand new visitor center that will be up and running by 2024. We did talk to them, and they're opening the doors to the convention and the conventioneers to come down and take a trolley tour. Other activities, since we're in Pittsburgh, is in the upper left-hand corner here. We have the Port Authority of Allegheny County. We call it the T, that runs from the South Hills of Pittsburgh right into downtown Pittsburgh. It even goes underneath the Allegheny River onto the north side. We have 2 inclines in Pittsburgh, the Monongahela Incline and the Duquesne Incline. Also on the North Shore, we have the USS Requin, which was a World War II submarine. We have the Monongahela Railroad Museum, which is the Monongahela Railroad. From my hometown, actually, in Rice's Landing, Pennsylvania, is the Young's Machine Shop. This is a completely belt-driven machine shop. It operates off of a small gasoline motor. Every year, they just keep getting more and more machines in operation. It's just a fantastic, fantastic activity. We also have the Heinz History Center. The PA Lumber Museum is close. The Tionesta Valley Railroad Station that's currently under restoration is to the north of us. In Wheeling, West Virginia is the Kruger Toy and Train Museum. Also in Ohio is the Denison Railroad Museum. And we also have some operating engines at Kennywood to the east of Pittsburgh at the Kennywood Amusement Park. So these are just some highlights. There are many other activities that we will be placing on the docket from which conventionaires can choose to attend. As usual, we'll have the layouts. We're working on home layout tours. Two layouts that we want to highlight here is on the North Shore, the Carnegie Science Center. They have a 4,000 square foot 3-rail O-scale layout of Pittsburgh. All of the Pittsburgh venues is accurately modeled in O-scale. It's fantastic. The Western PA Model Railroad Museum in Gibsonia, PA, just north of Pittsburgh. They are doing the Western Maryland from Connellsville, PA, all the way to Cumberland. Again, we are working with our local NMRA group to schedule home layout tours, so that'll be on the docket as future information is released. We alluded to that we had the 13,200 square foot room at the convention center along with the junior ballroom. So we will have the manufacturers and dealers rooms available right there on site. The model contest will be on site. All the clinics will be on site, so you don't have to venture out of the convention center whatsoever to attend all of your needs for the manufacturers, clinics, and on-site modular layouts. Our chairman is Gary Kohler. Again, Dennis Vaccaro is on the executive committee as well as myself. Right now, if we do get the bid, if we're awarded the bid today, we'll be off and running and probably be at the convention center within the next month to start our negotiations. But if you do have any questions right now, just give Gary a call hit him up on email or give him a call. So we're looking forward to bringing the convention to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A lot to do. It's going to be fun. We do have spouse activities lined up. So we have local wineries. We have a lot of outlets. And for those folks that like the casinos, we do have 2 casinos. One again is on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, and there's another one within Washington, PA. So plenty to do in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We welcome you. Come on out to the east, see what we have to offer. And looking forward to seeing everybody in person in Hickory next year. We'll have our table set up, and I can give you some more information. So Pete, thank you again for, on behalf of Gary and Dennis and myself, thank you again for letting us present. And hopefully we are awarded the bid for 2024 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Jim? No questions? Are there any other bids for 2024? Hearing no bids being offered, we are awarding Pittsburgh the 2024 convention.
Fantastic, Pete.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Looking forward to put on a great show for everybody.
Thank you much. It looks like a great
It's
venue.
going to be good. Yeah.
Super.
Got a lot of good stuff on
Thanks
board.
a lot.
You're welcome.
We have one more item of business before we close out here, and that is that we need to look at 2025. We haven't had any bids that I know about, and but we just we need to ask anyway. Are there any bids for 2025?
Terry, you just go ahead and bid on a convention.
Who's that? Who's that? Hearing no bids, 2025 is still open. So go back to your respective locations, talk to your friends, and see if you wouldn't like to sponsor the Narrow Gage Convention in 2025. Hickory then will honor bids for 2025 and 2026. With that, I believe the official business meeting is over. Is there anything else that we need to bring up?
We have 2 things.
Yes.
One, the PBL video is ready, but also Stathi Pappas is with us from Antonito.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he has a presentation. It's a video that was recorded of a banquet that the Friends of the Cumbres Toltec put together. And Stathi was the speakered feature at that event. So we can do this in either order. What's your pleasure? Okay, well, Stathi's been waiting here a while. Let me see if I can bring him up. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'm going to bring up this video as quick as I can.
It sounds good. Yeah, I'm Stathi Pappas. I'm the Assistant General Manager of the Cumbres Toltec Scenic Railroad. Happy to be here with you all today. I'm also the Operations Manager, so I've been monitoring my radio, and we are currently having a small problem with the 488. It's sublet, so I may need to run. So I'm gonna be monitoring that. You guys get to see the CNTS run in real time, basically from my office with the Lumberton Depot sign in the background. Certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have about the Special Projects Department, which I also run. That is where the restoration work has been happening on the historic car project, and also the 168, as well as the 1472 on the 489. So I guess while we're figuring out the technology side of things, if anybody had any questions or anything that they wanted to bring up, I'm happy to hear it.
Hey, Stathi, since this directly plays into the 2023 convention, could you walk us through, not everyone is probably familiar with the historic train cars and what the overall view of that project is. So if you take a couple minutes and walk everybody through that, I think everybody would find that fascinating.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, the historic consist was something that the CNTS kind of always has been lacking. Our normal passenger car fleet, they are coaches that we built to look like historic coaches. But basically in the 1960s, as the Silverton train was growing, basically any Denver and Rio Grande passenger car and passenger car truck that was worth anything ended up finding its way to Durango. And so in 1970, when the CNTS was formed, basically we got a few Hulk car bodies on freight car trucks that had been downgraded to work train status, and that was about it. So if all of you remember, in the very early years of the CNTS, basically the passenger cars in the 1970s were converted boxcars because that was all that was available. Over the years, we've been lucky enough to be able to build our new passenger car fleet, but finally, starting in 2014, we were able to embark on what we call the Historic Car Project, which is making, rehabilitating a number, in this case, 4 historic passenger cars that are original and authentic to the Denver and Rio Grande, and basically harvesting grants, appropriation money, et cetera, to be able to take these cars that were in chicken coop condition and turn them into fully restored and operable cars to make an accurate representation of the San Juan and New Mexico Express as it would have looked, say, around 1916 or 1917 on this railroad. So it's authentic equipment to this railroad, pulled by the authentic locomotive, which in this case is 1883 built DNRG 168. And we've finished the rebuild on that locomotive a little over, well, actually a little under a year ago right now. We were going to have the big rollout at opening day in May of this year. Obviously, COVID-19 changed our plans on that. Slowed a lot of things down, but we are currently rounding the bend on the completion of Coach 256 and RPO 65 to join our already rehabilitated to service Coach 292. 292 is an 1881 built Jackson and Sharp. Coach 256 is an 1876 Bill Meyer and Small. And then RPO 65, that's RPO Baggage Car 65, was built in 1887 by the Denver and Rio Grande. We have also received funding from the State Historical Fund to be able to embark on the rehabilitation of Pay Car F, which was an 1878 Bill Meyer and Small, originally Horton Chair Car number 24. So as soon as these 2 cars are rolled out of the shop a little bit later this month, that car will go in and it will start its 2 to 2.5 year rehabilitation process as well.
Okay, great. Any other questions? The presentation that that we have recorded will also talk about 168 and a number of other issues. But now's your shot at Stathi. We're hoping actually to have the symposium in Albuquerque linked in with the opening of the CNT next year in late May. So I don't know how that's, it all depends.
Right, yeah, there's so many unknowns at this point, but it is certainly our intention for the 2021 season to have the historic consist and the 168 out frequently. And obviously we are still on deck to do our Victorian Iron Horse event in August that we had advertised for our 50th anniversary year, which was this year. By the way, I'll just throw out one other thing. Here's a shameless advertisement for the railroad. We will be resuming 6-day-a-week operations starting on the 12th. Currently, we are operating 4 days a week out of Antonito, and we will resume operating out of Chama on the 21st of September until the end of the season, also 6 days a week. So yeah, come and ride the railroad. It's a beautiful time to do it. The leaves are beginning to turn, so waste no time getting to CNTS country and take a ride with us.
Stathi.
Yes, sir.
I just signed up. I bought my round trip air tickets to Albuquerque. I'll be seeing you on the 23rd.
All right, Bill, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Is there any chance at all for the RGS 20 to ever visit down there?
Well, we have been in conversations with the Railroad Museum, and they certainly want to be part of our Victorian Iron Horse event, and we definitely want to host them. We have some logistics, obviously, to work, but at this point, conceptually, everybody's on the same page so that we could have that locomotive down here as well. So stay tuned for more developments. Obviously, there's a lot of work between now and then, but it makes good sense to have that locomotive be part of that event as well. And certainly we'll be debuting a lot of very new to the historic preservation movement motive power at that event.
Okay. Anything else, guys, from Stathi? Stathi, thank you very much for making yourself available to us. I know you've got a railroad to run, and look forward to seeing you.
Hey, Russ, we have a couple of questions on the chat.
Okay.
Amber asked, are there any developments with rescheduling the Victorian Steam Roundup, and are there any new additions for the expected visiting locomotives for the Roundup?
At this time for Victorian Iron Horse, basically we are planning on having it be about the same time in August. So the dates will be the same as they were. Here, just a second. I'll turn down my radio a little bit.
That sounded like it was official business to me.
All right, looks like we got 488 back on the move. So we're back up and running. All right, anyway, but yeah, that being the case, if we could add RGS 20 to the mix, we certainly want to. Obviously, we are committed to the full program that we had advertised for this year, and we're looking at adding more to it, actually. So the bigger and better we can make this event, everybody stay tuned for more developments, because it's certainly going to be one not to miss.
Okay. Thank you, Stathi. Those are the questions on the chat, Russ.
All right, great.
Offhand, real quickly, what about your White Pass and Yukon engine? Any developments going to be ready by then?
I'm sorry if that was a question for me. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, what's the status of 61?
Oh, White Pass and Yukon 61. Yeah, we're making good progress on that. That's my personal project because I can't get enough steam locomotives at work, right? So at my personal shop, basically at this point, we're almost done putting in the new sheets for the firebox. It's a welding show and then a bunch of stay bolts. Shoe and wedge work is continuing. It's going to be some years before it's all put back together because me and my compatriots basically do it on our days off for fun. So it's not a paid project. It's just for the love of it. Everybody needs a steam locomotive that you got for $2 and half, $2 and half a bottle of whiskey. And that's basically what I paid for the 61. So it's good, clean fun. And at the end of it, we'll have another narrow gauge engine back up in operation.
For anybody that doesn't know, this is a C25 class locomotive.
That is correct. It's almost identical to the 375 on the Denver and Rio Grande, and that is once again White Pass and Yukon 61.
Great.
And dug out of a riverbed.
Yes.
Dug out from a riverbed.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it was one of the riprap locomotives and was drug out in the late 1980s. And if any of you saw the 280 behind the Skagway shops in the 90s and early 2000s, that's this locomotive.
Okay.
All right, Stathi, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I'm going to
play the recorded meeting.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go on mute. If I can stick around for questions at the end, I will. Otherwise, I might need to go. I just missed a phone call. Y'all take care. Thank you for loving narrow gauge and supporting everybody that's doing it. Take care.
Thank you.
Environment that it was built for. So that is such a blessing to be able to do so as well.
Yes, we hear it. Yes.
The locomotive itself. When it arrived, obviously, one could look at something in the park and say, well, things generally look relatively good. The usual suspects of, is everything completely rusted and frozen up, were not the case. Obviously, the locomotive had received the cosmetic restoration and the preservation that John Bush and company had done in the early 1980s, which was very helpful for its ongoing survivability and the ability to have the restoration, the rehabilitation of this engine go so well when we finally got to it beginning in 2015. It was a very good candidate. However, it certainly wasn't a cream puff by any means. Before I arrived on the property, the Antonito Top Crews had stripped the jacketing and in spacers that had replaced the lagging in 1983. Stripped all that off the pressure vessel, and obviously the pressure vessel looked pretty good from the outside. In terms of the frame, we knew that there were a number of relatively poor frame repairs that had been attempted in the early 20th century. Bare electrode arc welding, and there was even one instance of thermite weld on the frame as well, this being a wrought iron frame locomotive. So we knew that the boiler looked pretty good. We knew that the frame had some problems. The running gear looked relatively good, and the tender tank was rotted out, and there was going to be a lot of work necessary there. So in terms of getting the project off the ground, the first thing we did was try to put our fundraising committee together to be able to get enough funding in the door so that the project, once it began, would never have to stop. And as you all know very well in the Friends, there is a pageantry to getting a project off the ground, and you want to keep the drumbeat rolling so that people feel excited about the progress that you're making and that they want to continue to donate money to the cause. If it looks like there's no progress, then people lose interest, the excitement is lost, the initiative is lost, and then it's much harder to be able to get the project going. So before we started doing any real rehabilitation work other than the initial sort of inspection, we wanted to make sure that we had some money coming in the door and it was going to be enough to be sustainable. And luckily that happened very well. We were able to use some of our HPA fund as seed money to be able to do that. And then the capital campaign was incredibly successful. And Scott Gibbs and Jerry Dietzick were the ones that led that up and just did a bang up job on making sure that we were able to, once started, keep on going. The other thing that we did is we started with the tender. And, you know, there are two schools of thought when it comes to locomotive rehabilitations. One school of thought is start with the locomotive, particularly the boiler, and start making some big progress there. Because let's face it, what takes most projects out of the game is if the pressure vessel is in too bad a shape to do anything with it. So you might as well fly at that to begin with. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is, well, you might as well rebuild the tender and get it completely done, and it looks great. And everybody can say, well, that looks like real progress. And let's face it, you could have a done locomotive, but if you don't have a tender behind it, you're still not going to run it. And so that was the choice that we made. We started with the tender. We built a new tender tank, which is as close to exact a replica as we possibly could to the original, with over 2,500 hot rivets driven just as it was. And we used as much original hardware as we could for the tank so that there is some original fabric that remains. Obviously, the old tank was so paper thin that there was just no way that you could patch it. There was nothing that could be saved. Although we certainly did not scrap the old tank, it still looks like a tank, and it's an artifact in and of itself. So we began with that. We built the tender tank and got that completed. And we also worked on the tender frame. Now, during the 1983 cosmetic restoration, a new tender frame had been built for it. Originally, it had been wood. And by that point, the wood had rotted basically almost completely away. There was not much holding it together except termites and tradition. And so John and Company had built, using appropriately sized steel C-channel, a replica frame. Now, at that time, nobody imagined that the locomotive would be running. And so it had been basically put together using minimal fasteners and minimal welding because it was not intended to run. I worked some calculations on the materials that had been used, however, and ran those against the Baldwin specs for what a steel tender frame should be. And the material choice and the general geometries that were present in it were more than suitable to be a working tender frame. So we added the gussets, additional fasteners, and then fillet welding to be able to make it a serviceable tender frame. So we were able to save a lot of money and time there by being able to reuse it. Now, some people may feel that that's ersatz versus using a real wood tender frame. And to some degree, there's something to be said for that. However, this locomotive really was a rehabilitation, according to the Secretary of Interior Standards for Preservation, not a restoration. And so sort of picking and choosing appropriate alternate techniques that do not change the look and feel of the artifact are appropriate in a rehabilitation. So that's why we made that choice. And it will yield a tender frame that is far stronger than the original one ever would have been. And it has so far proven itself to be very rigid in service, which is a good thing. That's kind of what you want. There's no racking or warpage that's going on. We also rebuilt the trucks. There was extensive work required on them, new bolsters, etc., turning journal surfaces, and we were able to put that all back together. So that was a good place to be. We built the tender, we painted it, we lettered it, and we had something to show for it then at the end that looked like a finished product. Again, that was able to leverage some additional support for the locomotive, and at the same time, we were able to get some grants from El Pomar Foundation and the Gates Rubber Foundation from the Denver area and Colorado Springs area, and that was also a good shot in the arm. So at that point, we turned our attention to the locomotive itself, and the first thing we started with was dropping the drivers out from underneath it, getting all the running gear disassembled, so that we could know where we were. We had already by this point shot a bunch of UTs and worked a Form 4, which is the engineering package on the pressure vessel, and found that our initial assumption that the pressure vessel was in pretty good shape actually was true. It was in remarkable condition. And the dry climate of Colorado Springs had certainly been very favorable for preservation. The design that the boiler was built to in 1915 was also very modern. The factor of safety on some of the components of the boiler was far above the minimum standard of 4. In fact, such as the steam dome, you had a safety factor of approximately 7.5. So it was significantly overbuilt, and then it had not deteriorated much, and it only had about 18 years of real service on it. So we were very lucky there. But when we started getting into the running gear, that's when we realized that we were in big trouble. The frame, the wrought iron frame, the weld repairs, we shot some radiographs using a very hot isotope to really try to understand what was going on in there. And all the frame welds that had been done by the Grand in presumably the late teens and early 20s were not going to work. They all had serious inclusions, lack of fusion, and in fact, the one thermite weld that had been used over the number 2 driver, it basically, the radiograph looked like a sponge when you put it on the light box. So we started cutting all of that out and started re-welding all of that using appropriate electrode and modern welding techniques. And that was about a month and a half of sitting underneath the locomotive, burning one rod in at a time. And we basically put probably about 300 pounds of welding rod into the frame of that engine. We also used appropriate NBIC, that's National Board Inspection Code, weld procedures to eliminate the need for post-weld stress relief so that we didn't build internal stresses into those large frame members by welding in that manner. And so basically around mid-October of, I guess, 2018, we were able to say, okay, that's finally done. At the same time, we had removed the tires from the wheel centers, ordered new tires, and we had gone through axle boxes, wheel centers, axles, crank pins, etc. And we started making the new shoes and wedges to tram the locomotive. The locomotive was terribly out of tram, actually. It was probably about 1/4 of an inch out of square. So the axles, although they were relatively parallel, were crabbed in the frames so that going down the track, it was more of a parallelogram than it was actually a square. So we rectified that with new shoes and wedges and made sure that everything was set up very tight so that the locomotive would have a long service life. The other thing that we found, just because it looks good doesn't mean that it is good, right? The crosshead guides we found on one side were 1.5 inches out of square with the center line of the cylinder bores. And on the other side, it was about 3/4 of an inch out. And when they replaced the 4-bar crosshead guides and went to the alligator style crosshead guides in the late 1920s, it appears that the Denver Rio Grande basically sort of over the thumbnail threw them on there, and it obviously worked for some time, but that was not going to be something that would be advantageous for long-term service. You could tell that the Babbitt slippers on the crossheads themselves had been wearing extensively, even in the few years of service that it had since then, approximately 5 years. So we relined those and got them all straight and true to the bores. We also rebored the cylinder bores because they were scored and had some corrosion. And sort of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As we went through the running gear, all the things that look okay when you finally have it apart and you can really dimension it and check the alignments of all these components, it was found that the locomotive was not in the greatest shape at all. Certainly it would have run as it was. If you just put a boiler on it basically and fired it up, it would have moved itself. But it would have been a maintenance nightmare if you were going to use it in any sort of reliable and regular service. So that's the reason why we spent the time and effort to go through the running gear and basically make it like new to the Baldwin specs. So once we were done with that, obviously, okay, now we have a nice boiler shell. We have a running gear that's looking pretty good. We have a tender that's looking great. By this point, Craig McMullen and company from the Springs had built the new cab and built the beautiful pilot. So we had those waiting to go on the engine, but we had more work that we had to do before we could install those. We retubed the boiler. There was a small patch on the outside of the firebox on the right-hand side towards the rear. We took care of that. And we were able to fire up the locomotive for the first time since approximately 1935 on May 10th of 2019. So the sesquicentennial of the Golden Spike, the CNTS was able to blow the whistle on the 168 for the first time since Lord knows when. And that was a pretty cool moment. What a special time. Look at the things that we get to do, all of us here at this wonderful railroad. And so that was quite a moment. But at one level, you say, okay, 95% of the work done, right? I mean, here we have a running gear, here we have a boiler. How much more can there be? Well, that 5% to finish the thing is really kind of the crux of the matter sometimes. So at that point, it was a dead run to get insulation on the boiler, to finish the plumbing, to get the running boards rebuilt, replaced, or repurposed, so that we could actually start installing all the appliances. And then we embarked on doing a treated boiler jacket, because you could see in the photo from 1916 that the boiler jacket was probably something like American ingot iron, which is the less expensive American equivalent to Russia iron. It doesn't have the planishing, but it has basically that beautiful deep luster because it's for the most part gun blued like a fine firearm. So we were able to find some number 8 mirror polish stainless steel. I decided to go with stainless just so that the jacket would be very rugged. If we had gone with carbon steel, bird droppings or anything like that could actually etch it and remove the color from the jacket. So we were able to source in Florida, of all places, enough sheets of 20 gauge stainless steel with a mirror polish to be able to do it. And then we were able to get Cleveland black oxide in Cleveland, Ohio, to be able to do the treatment of the jacket to give it that beautiful finish and luster. And that was a bit of an odyssey to be able to, get that all done, to lay out all the pieces, to get it all cut out. Since it was stainless instead of carbon steel, we really needed to do something like laser jet or water table. So we actually had them water jet cut out so that there was no warpage to the stainless, and then sent to Cleveland black oxide. That took a number of months to be able to get it back. And so here we were looking at a timeline. We wanted to run the thing before the end of the season last year. And the jacket steel arrived on the 10th of September. So we basically had about maybe 4.5 weeks more of the season before we would have missed our deadline. Now that deadline was self-imposed. We certainly didn't have to do that, but we had made promises to our donors and to everybody that we were going to run this engine, and we wanted to have that special moment. So here we go, and we put the jacket together. And again, folks from our trauma shop as well as our Antonito Special Projects crew working hand in hand to be able to finish the jacket. The jacket went on in 3 days, from just sheets just showing up to riveting all the little tiny brass rivets on the seams and getting all the clips riveted on and everything. 3 days start to finish. It went on beautifully. The layout work that our team did with the cardboard templates was spot on. They did a great job. And if it had not been, that would have taken a lot longer. So it is truly a testament to the skill and attention to detail that the team has. And then at that point, we were able to mount the beautiful cab from you, the friends at Colorado Springs. And we were able to start adding the rest of the appliances, the final plumbing. And basically from September 10th to its first time, it moved itself on the 17th of September as a complete locomotive. That's how quickly it all kind of dropped together. And obviously it wasn't perfect the first time we ran it. There was still some things that we needed to do. We needed to run some additional wiring for the electrical system. There were a few leaks here and there that we had to chase. But our first trip out past Ferguson Trestle was basically, I believe it was the 22nd of September. And then the grand unveiling that we did with the locomotive with Coach 292 and the Caboose 0579 painted in its 1916 era livery. Thank you, friends, for doing that. We were able to do that on the 14th of October of that year, before the season ended, and basically show, hey, the 168 is back, and we're able to show this beautiful example of 19th century locomotive technology in this earlier period of the Denver and Rio Grande and our railroad's history. And I'll just leave you with one anecdote. When we did our first test run beyond yard limits, when you're within yard limits, you have to run restricted speed, which is 8 miles an hour or slow enough to stop within half your range of vision. But once you hit the yard limit sign out there at Antonito, then the speed limit is 20 miles an hour. And on our first trip outside of yard limits, We passed that yard limit sign. I centered the Johnson bar, so basically put it in neutral, floated the throttle valve, charged the steam circuit with boiler pressure, and she took off like a jackrabbit. And I had to come out of it before we would start exceeding 20 miles an hour. That's how fast and how smooth she was. Several people that were in the chase car behind us said we just left them in the dust as we took off. The T12s, the crews back in the day, always highly regarded these locomotives, not because they could pull a whole heck of a lot, but because they were sweet and rode well and could run like the wind. And our 168 can run like the wind.
That's fantastic, Stathi. Really, really nice work.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to come and visit in Antonito and see the 168. And then when we do run her, obviously the land of COVID right now has changed a lot of things. But when we do finally run her again, do not miss the opportunity to see this beautiful locomotive. And I do have to say, I can't wait to see this locomotive with the 470 behind it.
Stathi, are you open to a couple questions?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's see if anybody has any questions out there. If anybody needs help unmuting or anything like that, just wave into the screen. We'll try and get you unmuted.
Is 168 going to be used in revenue service?
Yeah, 168 will be used in revenue service. It will be used with the historic consist. So those are the passenger cars that we've been working on, as well as the 470 that the Colorado Springs contingent of the Friends have been working on. And that will be in a regular service. Now, this year, it was supposed to have basically about 8 or 9 departures over the course of the season, plus the Victorian Iron Horse. Now, unfortunately, that all has changed at this point. But it will be used in a regular service, and there will be tickets available generally, in addition to the special events that we do. Now, we're not exactly sure what that calendar is going to look like at this time. And obviously, 2021, there's still a lot of unknowns as to what that year is going to look like. But it will be used in a revenue service. It's not big enough to haul the normal trains with the large steel cars. The wooden cars basically weigh about half as much of what our normal steel coaches weigh. So as such, this locomotive pulling a 5-car train on the east side of the railroad, it's more than adequate to do that with the historic cars. And so we're imagining that you'll see a lot of that type of service when we finally get there.
I'd heard that 168 would have to take water from the lava tank. Is that true, or is that another engine I'm thinking about?
Well, at this point, it all depends on how you're running the locomotive, but we imagine that we will take water at lava, and for now we'll use one of the water cars that we have and station it out there at the siding. But we imagine that we'll want to take water at lava just to make sure that you don't run out. Water's one of those things. If you could make it all the way to sublet without having to take water, that'd be nice. But especially if you're having to work the engine hard, or if you have any situation develop where you have to wait on something, it's better off to just take water and make sure that you have extra. Now, I will say with our trip to lava last October, we still had over half a tank of water by the time we got there. I would imagine that with that consist, we probably could have made sublet no problem. But again, discretion is the better part of valor in this case. So we'll station the water car out there, and if we're ever able to get lava tank going, that would sure be convenient. So
I just say, as a former resident of Colorado Springs, thank you very much for doing this.
Well, thank you very much.
Can I interrupt for just a minute while we're doing that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got to leave. Business is calling, but at any rate, Robin, Russ, Pete, Johnny, Chris, I can't remember everybody's name, but thank you so much for putting this together the way you've done this. It's just been amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I wanted to thank Stathi for that. We've recorded all of this, and the complete video with corrected sound at the beginning will be up on our website. So, and again, I don't know about you, but every time I think about 168 and what it was and how it is now, I get chills. I think it's great. So I'm trying to get PBL to do another run of the T12s, but I haven't been as successful so far. So maybe you guys can help me put some pressure on Jimmy.
Russ, may I ask you a question about the video?
Yeah.
Is it possible, I've had a couple questions from folks, is it possible for these folks to download this video into their computers so they can save it? Is it just a viewable thing, or can it be downloaded?
So we will post it on YouTube, and YouTube does not permit you to download videos. You can only watch them on YouTube.
Okay. Well, but what I can do with Stathi's permission, and I think the friends would be compatible with this, I can send you the link to the video, which is on the friends website. So I can happily post that.
These questions regarded
on our website.
There's also these people wanted to download the entire three-week program.
Yes. But if so, you'd have the link on the St. Louis website, and you can download it directly.
Yes. Okay.
For anybody that wants to do that.
Excellent. So
Stathi, thank you again, and good luck out there with what you're doing through the winter and so on.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Well, gentlemen and ladies, maybe, we pretty much run the gauntlet here, or gamut, I guess, either way. It's been our pleasure to make this work. It wouldn't have worked without the collaboration of an awful lot of people.
Yes.
And their hard work ahead of the time we put this together. And there's more to come, because all of these videos will be edited and will be placed up on the St. Louis website, and you can download them, or not download them, but you can view them on the YouTube channel that Robin has arranged with Burr Stewart for your ongoing viewing. We'll leave these channels up for probably at least a month. We haven't decided yet, but it's kind of up to you to kind of determine how things go forward. If there's some real energy on doing this on an ongoing basis, that can happen. But we need to have feedback from you to know whether or not there's really interest in having something like this occur on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, independent of the other meetings that we have or hope to have. But we have the capacity now to do this and reach to model railroaders, certainly narrow gaugers all around the world. So I would appreciate hearing from you what level of interest you have in visiting some of the remote layouts, for instance, or getting together to chat online about certain aspects of the hobby or the history or whatever. So there's an open opportunity there for you to jump into it. Robin?
No, thank you, guys. It's been fun here. I appreciate all your questions. I'm just looking at the YouTube channel, and for example, the clips from day one already have like 300, 400 views. So that's great. The videos are being watched. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing this. Russ and I have learned a great deal about doing these things remotely, not just technically, but about wrangling people. And but we've been amazed by the quality of the presentations. I think the presentations have been very, very high quality. Us managing technology has been mostly okay. So we appreciate your forbearance on that. But my thanks go to the St. Louis crowd who set up this whole convention and had to cancel it. My heart goes out to them, and thank you for being able to resurrect some parts of it over the last 3 weeks.
Thank you, Robin and Russ. It's been great, and it wouldn't have been possible without your help. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. We'll see you in Hickory, maybe.
Yes, indeed.
Or certainly online at your pleasure.
Look forward to it. Thank you, guys.